So UFC 298 takes place this weekend, and I'm going to break down every single individual fight on the card, starting with the prelim opener up until the main event. Also, I do have a Topology group if you want to join that. With that, you can see all of my predictions as well as submit your own predictions to compete against me and others who are in the group. So link in description for that if you want to join the group. But let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into these fights. Starting off with, we have Andrea versus Miranda Maverick. I'm taking Miranda Maverick here. I think she is better than Andrea Lee. Andrea Lee right now has gotten a bit too old in her career for me. She's 35 years of age. And Miranda Maverick just seems like, to me, she has the grappling advantage over Andrea Lee. Andrea Lee spends too much time on bottom position for me to pick her in this matchup. And I think Miranda Maverick, only being 26 years old and coming into the prime of her career, she is set up pretty well to beat Andrea Lee. And not the best prelim opener, if I'm being honest with you, but you know what? I'll take Miranda Maverick all damn day of the week. There's not much here to really talk about anyways. I just think that Miranda Maverick is overall better than Andrea Lee. I mean, Andrea Lee is on a 3-fight losing streak right now. Lost to Natalia Silva, lost to Macy Barber, lost to Viviana Oahu. I just think that her confidence is pretty much shot at this point. While even though Miranda Maverick doesn't have the best win streak put together, only coming off one win against Priscilla Capoeira, I think with her age and her being so young, she has the potential to improve, whereas Andrea Lee, I think, can't really improve anymore with her being so old. So Miranda Maverick via grappling. Moving on up the card, we have Val Woodburn versus Oban Elliott. Big thing here. If I'm being honest with you, Val Woodburn, kind of a can crusher, let's be real here. Before he fought Bo Nickel, he fought Louis Mello, 30-16. He fought Wesley Martins, 17-18. And I'm pretty sure these guys were pretty old as well in their career. These guys weren't young at all. And I know Bo Nickel is a tough matchup to take on your debut, but he still got smoked by Bo Nickel pretty badly in the first round. I just don't trust that. Whereas Oban Elliott here, he fought Kaik Brito in the Contender Series, and that guy was dangerous, a huge welterweight. He was getting smoked by him early in the fight, but made a comeback to get that win, and I really rate that win from Oban Elliott, so that means that he is tough. So if you want to have an argument for Val Woodburn, it might be that he is a more powerful guy or fast, twitchy, but I think Oban Elliott is kind of built to take on these guys. He's tough, he's technical as well, and he's not a can crusher. So I kind of have to take Oban Elliott here. I just don't really trust Val Woodburn, and I don't really care that he's 7-1 when 7 of those wins were against less than stellar competition. Oban's good, while I think Val Woodburn is pretty mid. I don't trust the striking of Val Woodburn. I don't find him to be extremely technical. He really just is powerful and athletic, and I think Oban Elliott is built to beat guys like Val Woodburn. Also, Oban Elliott is a bit taller than Val Woodburn, but in terms of size, he might be a little bit smaller because he is a former lightweight, but again, I think Oban Elliott is built to beat Val Woodburn. Moving on up the card, we have Josh Quinlan versus Danny Barlow. Now, this is pretty much based on talent. Josh Quinlan, dude, I don't think he's really that talented, man. Like, he has a few good KOs on his record. He KO'd Jason Witt before he lost to Trey Waters, but Jason Witt, notorious for being a bit chinny in that first round. Like, I don't find Jason Witt to be a good, credible win. Now, Quinlan is athletic and powerful, but he's fighting Danny Barlow, who will have an 8-inch reach advantage over him, as well as having a, I think, better style and being better than Trey Waters, which Josh Quinlan, he struggled to find the inside to land a shot against Trey Waters, and Waters was able to stay on the outside and pick at him at range and pretty much abuse him in that department. And I don't think Josh Quinlan will be able to find his way on the inside to land that KO hook against Danny Barlow. Barlow's talented, man. Straight up talented. He beat Raheem Forrest on the Contender Series. Just pure talent. Just looked good, looked technical. He's powerful as well in the first round. Danny Barlow actually has some hype around him, some talent, whereas Josh Quinlan, even though he might be a little bit talented, he just seems a bit too hook heavy. He relies too much on that one punch KO power, where I think Danny Barlow will be more willing to sit on the outside, pick at him, as well as go for KO blows mixed in between that. I think Danny Barlow overall is just way more talented than Josh Quinlan, and I think he actually has a future in MMA. He's taller by 2 inches, again with the huge reach advantage. I don't see a way where Danny Barlow loses this unless he has some low IQ dumb moment, which we didn't see coming. But Danny Barlow should get this one done, I think, by first round KO. Moving on up the card, we have Minghang Zhang versus Brendson Ribeiro. Now, this one is a tough one to predict here. Both of these guys are just kind of similar in the way they fight. Honestly, they just are power punchers. But I think I'm going to take Brendson Ribeiro here. Again, I think this really just comes down to reach advantage. Brendson Ribeiro is 6'3" compared to Minghang Zhang's 6'2". Now, obviously, people can lie about their height, but even if they are similar in height, Brendson Ribeiro has a 6-inch reach advantage over Minghang Zhang. And when it comes to reaches, when it's within 1 or 2 inches, it's kind of, you can't really put too much stock into that. I know a reach is important, but it's not the end of the world if you have like a 1-inch reach disadvantage over your opponent. But when it gets over than like 5, 6, it becomes a different story here. And here's the big issue with Minghang Zhang, bro. This guy also only fights cans, man. Listen, he fought a 7-2 guy. That was 1 year and 8 months ago. But then before that, he fought a 1-3 guy. Before that, he fought a 6-9 guy. Before that, he fought a 9-6 guy. 5-8 guy. Like, this guy is fighting absolute cans and he's in the UFC 16-6. I just can't trust this kind of record. If you're only fighting mid-competition, I can't trust you to beat a guy like Brendson Ribeiro, who's fighting 11-0 guy on a contender series, fought a 7-1 guy, and then a 29-18 guy, but at least he's fighting at least better competition than Minghang Zhang, who is literally only fighting cans, and that is just absolutely stinky. I don't trust that. I don't believe you're good if you're fighting 6-9 guys and 1-3 guys in your, like, what, 20th fight in your career? This was Minghang Zhang's 20th fight in his career, and he fought a 1-3 guy. There's just simply no excuse for that, and that means you're kind of untalented. Now, he does have KO power, but so does Brendson Ribeiro. And I don't think this fight is going to end up being a decision. Somebody's getting KO'd here. And I think the guy with the better record and the better resume is going to get the KO win. I'm taking Brendson Ribeiro, but maybe Minghang Zhang can surprise us. It's been over 1.5 years since he last fought. He's young, 25 years of age. Maybe he has improved in this 1.5 years off from fighting. But I just can't predict a massive jump in skill level when you're fighting absolute cans. So I'm taking Brendson Ribeiro by first round KO. Moving on up the card, we have Rinya Nakamura versus Carlos Vera. This one's pretty easy. Rinya Nakamura, lock of the card here. Rinya Nakamura wins this one. He is made to beat Carlos Vera. I'm sorry. Carlos Vera is actually not that bad, but he is 36 years old, coming in on short notice as well, fighting an actual prospect in Rinya Nakamura. Nakamura didn't look that impressive against Fernie Garcia, but still nonetheless won that fight pretty convincingly. He is probably the best prospect in these Asian countries, maybe besides Tatsuro Taira, but he is actually talent-filled, and I think he easily out-grapples Carlos Vera, and he probably submits him. Now, one thing about Rinya Nakamura is that maybe his wins aren't that good. Maybe he can be fraud-checked by Carlos Vera because, again, beating Fernie Garcia is not the most great win I've ever seen. Beating Toshiomo Kazama, who is he was 10-2 at the time, but that dude seemed like a can. I'm not going to lie to you. But when I watch Nakamura, I see the skill level, I see the grappling talent, and I see him being able to take down Carlos Vera and at the very least control him with ease. One thing Nakamura needs to work on is his jiu-jitsu and get those submissions off. He could have submitted Fernie Garcia, I think, a long time ago in that fight, but he was so content on staying in north-south position. It was very weird, but again, he shows an incredible ability to stay in control when he's on top, and he shoots very athletic takedowns, and I can simply just see him taking down Carlos Vera and controlling him for 3 rounds and probably getting a submission at some point. Maybe he goes for like a key lock sometimes, so maybe he gets that. Might get an arm bar, but he does prefer those joint locks, so maybe he might get an arm bar finish in the first or second round. But moving on up the card again, we have Amanda Lemos versus Mackenzie Dern. I just don't trust the striking of Mackenzie Dern anymore. She can get submissions here. She's a great jiu-jitsu practitioner. Goddamn, I butchered that, didn't I? But she's a great jiu-jitsu practitioner. But I think when she's fighting Amanda Lemos, who has power in her hands, who it will go for a finish, who will throw power punches, I don't trust her to stay safe for the entire 3 rounds of this fight. I just really don't trust Mackenzie Dern in a stand-up exchange. And the thing about Mackenzie Dern as well is that her offensive takedowns are awful. She can't seem to take anybody down, so I don't trust her to get takedowns on Lemos. And I can see this fight being very similar to how she fought Andrade. Andrade and Lemos are not that different in terms of their fight styles. And I can see Lemos just going for a KO blow and then piecing her up for 2 rounds and probably KOing her in that 3rd round. So it's also women's MMA. So I think Lemos at any point hurts Mackenzie Dern. The ref will most likely stop the fight early because that's just how women's MMA works and how these ref those exchanges, I guess. But we move on to another fight being Anthony Hernandez versus Roman Kopylov. Now, this one is very, very tricky. And I like Roman Kopylov, but I think in terms of styles, this is a style nightmare for him. Hernandez is like the cardio king, man. Hernandez has some of the most insane cardio, and he's kind of like a middleweight Merab. Dude will just shoot takedowns and pull guillotines nonstop. He does not care at all. I mean, when you're breaking Marc-Andre Barriault with cardio, you know your cardio is insane. And listen, I do like Kopylov, and he has a good chance to win this fight, but it just worries me in terms of styles. I don't think Kopylov will be able to get his striking going with a guy like Hernandez, just constantly going for takedowns, pulling guillotines, pushing the pace heavy on him, backing him up as well. It's going to take probably a miracle head kick for Roman Kopylov to get this one done. It's just going to take something quick in the 1st round that he has to hurt Hernandez quick for him to win this. That's the only way I see Kopylov winning. I don't see him winning over 3 rounds. I don't see him breaking Hernandez. Even if he does stuff the takedowns, it just doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's just going to be nonstop pressure, nonstop takedowns from Hernandez. And I just don't trust Kopylov to get his hands going, to get his striking going at all against Hernandez. And he might be a bit too hesitant, and that might just be the nail in the coffin, and he might just get out-grappled for 3 rounds. I like Kopylov. I think he's more skilled, but again, in terms of just style, this is a nightmare style for Kopylov. And I'm rooting for Kopylov to win this, man. He has improved so much since he made his UFC debut. I really felt like we've watched Kopylov grow into the UFC, but I think fighting Hernandez is a nightmare matchup for him. I just can't not pick Hernandez here. Kopylov can win this. It wouldn't surprise me if he does win this, but I think he needs to win this by 1st round KO or else he loses the fight. And I just don't know if I can predict that with options. You know, I think Hernandez has more options in this fight, and options wins fights. So I'm going to take Anthony Hernandez to win this by pretty much a grappling fest over Roman Kopylov. It sucks. I hope he wins, but I don't think he's going to beat Hernandez with his style and how he shoots takedowns and pulls guillotines. Like I mentioned before, I think Hernandez is just a bit too stylistically bad for Kopylov to beat. But we'll see. Hopefully he gets this one done. But moving on up the card, we have Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry Cejudo. Merab just has that style to beat Cejudo. It doesn't matter if you stuff his takedowns. It doesn't matter at all. Merab is going to shoot takedowns nonstop. Even if he fails them, you have to worry about defending them. And if you do defend them, guess what? There's one more coming your way, and you have to defend it. And it's just nonstop defending takedowns, and you can't ever get your striking going. I don't see Cejudo being able to get his striking going because guess what? He's going to be too focused on stuffing Merab's takedowns, and he is a cardio monster. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter what you do against Merab. He's just going to keep shooting takedowns, and you can't do anything about it besides stuff them. And even when you do stuff them and separate, there's more coming your way, and he doesn't gas out. Merab is on EPO, and I think that is a nightmare-style matchup for anybody. I think Henry Cejudo probably is the better person to deal with Merab's style because he is his own, Olympic gold medalist level grappler here. But he's 37 years old. Just lost to Aljo. Looked really rusty in the beginning rounds of that fight. Didn't look himself. The only way I see Cejudo winning this is actually him being the one to take down Merab. And with Merab's style, he's going to be pressuring and shooting his own takedowns. I don't think Cejudo will have any time to shoot his own takedowns. And that to me is just stinky, bro. It's just so stinky. It sucks. Merab is not really that good, but he just has this style that's unbeatable right now. Unless you hurt Merab early like Marlon Moraes did, I don't see how he loses. Cejudo has to hurt him and KO him in moments when they're not grappling, and that's very few and far between when you're fighting Merab. And Henry Cejudo just doesn't have that high level of power that I think he can hurt Merab with or make him fear the striking exchanges. If Petr Yan couldn't hurt Merab at any point, I don't see Cejudo being able to do it either, and it sucks. But again, this is Merab's style. He is made to beat anybody really much with his cardio. This guy is, again, a cardio machine, and I don't know how good Cejudo really even is right now. He's getting old. He hasn't fought in a very long time. I know he fought Aljo, but before that, he didn't fight for like, 3-4 years. That's a long time for Cejudo. It's a long time for any fighter to come back from. Maybe he'll be more switched on for this fight, but then again, he did fight Aljo 9 months ago. We'll see how good Cejudo is, but I'm worried that he might just not be able to keep up with Merab. Matter of fact, I don't think he will be able to keep up with Merab, and I see him just losing a clear decision, 30-27 to Merab. Yikes. But moving on up the card, we have a Geoff Neal versus Ian Machado Garry. Taking Ian Garry, man. I'm taking Ian Garry to win this one. Geoff Neal is good. He can KO Ian Garry at any point. He can definitely win this fight. But Ian Garry has proved to me that on the outside, he is different. Ian Garry actually has a lot of talent, and Geoff Neal does as well. But guess what? Geoff Neal lost to Neil Magny. I hate saying that shit, bro. And I hate basing a prediction off of that. But Geoff Neal did lose to Neil Magny. But again, Geoff Neal is really good. Like, he could have KO'd Shavkat, but Shavkat's chin is apparently elite. But I don't know if Geoff Neal was really made to beat Ian Garry. Geoff Neal's made to beat guys who like to throw a lot of looping punches and hooks. And Ian Garry really isn't that kind of guy. He will do everything. I think we'll see Ian Garry use his kicks, use his teeps, use all of his tools to keep Geoff Neal kind of away from him at range. Try to stay safe from that 1-2. Geoff Neal's technical. He can KO Ian Garry because Ian Garry, to me, I feel like his chin is a bit suspect. He got dropped by Song Kanan, so Ian Garry can be cracked and put down, but do I think Geoff Neal can do it? Maybe he possibly can, but I don't know. I think Ian Garry is just improving at a rapid rate. He's 26 years of age. I don't care about the outside business right now. This is a full card prediction video. I don't like Ian Garry. I don't like his personality, but when it comes to actual fight styles, I can't be biased towards Geoff Neal because I don't want Ian Garry to win. I want to see Ian Garry KO'd. So Geoff Neal, this is a message to you. KO Ian Garry for me. I would appreciate it. But like I said before, Geoff Neal was made to beat guys who throw a lot of looping punches and hooks, and Ian Garry does have more in his tool bag than just hooks and overhand rights or overhand lefts. I can just really see Ian Garry pumping that teep out, keeping Geoff Neal backed up. But then again, this is kind of an X factor here. This might be a kind of an outlandish thing to say, but Ian Garry has been training at Shoot the Box. Now, if you don't know what Shoot the Box is, that's Charles Oliveira's gym, and most of the fighters who train at Shoot the Box have that style of Oliveira, where it's just walking forward, Terminator style, always pressuring, just trying to break the opponent. And if Ian Garry tries to do that style against Geoff Neal, he's getting KO'd. I'm sorry. Ian Garry's chin is not made to have that shoot the box style. And if he tries to be this Terminator like Oliveira, he's getting KO'd by Geoff Neal. I don't care. But if he fights like normal Ian Garry, where he's not really on the outside, but mainly on the outside, but pumping that teep, pumping that leg kick, taking his time, making the correct reads, not trying to be too brash going into the pocket against Geoff Neal, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll pick his way to a 29-28 decision win against Geoff Neal. But moving on to the co-main event, we have Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa. I'm taking Whittaker here. I still believe in Whittaker. I don't care they lost to DDP. DDP is now a champion, so that loss is not that bad in hindsight. But Paulo Costa did lose to Marvin Vettori pretty convincingly. He got outstruck by Marvin Vettori as well, and Marvin Vettori is the king of mid. And I don't think Whittaker is mid in the slightest. I think he is way more technical. He proved that against Vettori, but the way he beat him, Paulo Costa also hasn't fought in a very long time. I just don't really believe in Paulo Costa, and I think he does get beat by Whittaker. Costa just doesn't seem to have, like, his style is more so just pressure heavy, try to land power punches, but I don't feel like Costa has that high level of power. He's more of a volume guy. Like, I think he hurts you and then pours on the volume, which maybe he can KO Whittaker here, but I think Whittaker just, in terms of talent and skill, he vastly outskills Paulo Costa all damn day of the week. And I just don't know if Paulo Costa can go in there and land a perfect shot like how DDP did and just outskill him. Paulo Costa's takedown defense is sus. And Whittaker will go for takedowns as well. So I can see Whittaker winning the striking and the grappling. And if things do get tough for Whittaker on the feet, if Paulo Costa is putting some sting in his shots, I can see Whittaker shooting a great double leg, nicely timed, getting Paulo Costa down and riding the round on top. Whittaker just has more ways to win this fight. And I don't like Paulo Costa's takedown defense. I don't think he's improved since this year and a half he's taken off the sport. Losing to Vettori is pretty stinky. Even though Vettori is pretty good, it's still pretty stinky, and I think you need to outclass a guy like Vettori if you want to beat Whittaker. So in my opinion, this will be a classic Whittaker win just by dominating all 3 rounds of this fight, piecing apart Paulo Costa on the feet, and going for takedowns whenever he wants to, like how he normally fights. So I'm taking Whittaker by decision, 30-27. I'm pretty confident about that one. But moving on to the main event, Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria. I did a whole video about this already, so I'll keep this one a bit brief, but I do think Volkanovski is more technical. I think he's faster. I think he's overall better than Topuria, but Topuria has that one X factor, and that's the power. And I think Volk's chin after those Islam losses is pretty scary right now. I don't know if Volk's recovery will ever be the same because, again, Volk's chin has never been the best, but his recovery has always been solid. And now he's 35 years old. He took a TKO loss to Islam Makhachev. I don't know if his chin will be able to keep up the recovery time like how it used to. If I'm being honest here, it doesn't matter if Volk's better than Topuria. It doesn't matter if Volk's winning the fight. All that matters is if can Topuria consistently land on Volkanovski's chin. And I think if he does do that, does he eventually KO Volk? And I think he does that in the first round. I think Topuria has really underrated boxing. Again, he's very talented, very skilled. He's a bit bigger than Volk as well. They are somewhat similar in size, but I think in the weigh-ins, man, Topuria looked a bit bigger than Volk. And I can really see Topuria getting this KO win over Volk. But again, I think Volk's better. I think he's simply better. I don't mind Volk by decision. We'll see how good Topuria's gas tank is because I think he will be going for an early finish against Volk and he might wear himself out. He really wants this moment. He really wants this first round KO. So if Topuria goes for it in that first round and doesn't get it, there might be some issues in those later rounds. And we know with Volk, he has insane cardio. He can push a 5-round fight pretty easily. And if at any point Topuria is gassing, Volk's going to pour it on and TKO him. But I think it won't get to that point. And I think Topuria is going to find that KO blow in the first round and put Volk down. And probably, I don't want to say flatline, but I'm leaning towards a flatline KO for Topuria. But we'll see what happens. But Topuria by KO in the first round is my official prediction. So that is the entire card. I'm sorry if I was a bit short with some of these fights. I'm extremely tired right now. I've been up all day. I'm having a stressful evening. I'm a bit worn out, if I'm being honest with you. So I didn't bring my entire A game for this prediction video, but you know what? My points are still valid, and I think I'll still get all of these fights correct. So yeah, again, thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate you so much. I'll probably give more details in the descriptions of these fights in the Topology group. So if you are interested, join the group. But I'm out of here, guys. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for notifications. I'm out of here. Peace. I'll see y'all Saturday.